Everything begins in outer space, when an object falls at full speed toward Earth and crashes in the middle of the New Mexico desert. At that very moment, a hunter who is tracking deer sees the impact and decides to go check it out. He heads to the crater with his dog, but the animal gets frightened and runs away. The next day we meet Renee, a lonely girl who is obsessed with poisonous animals. She isn't popular at school, and things at home aren't going well either. She lives with her mother, Linda, and with her mother's boyfriend, Chase, whom she doesn't get along with. After classes, Renee takes care of feeding her pets, including her best friend, a snake named Graham. During dinner, Chase complains that someone scratched the door of his truck and that he also found dead rats near the microwave. Renee admits that she heated the rats to feed her snake, but says she cleaned everything afterward, unlike him, who spends the day drinking and doesn't help with anything. Her comment makes Chase furious, and he throws the salad at her. Without saying a word, Renee leaves the house and rides off down the highway on her ATV. Once she calms down, she stops near a crater in the middle of the desert. Something catches her attention, and she goes closer to take a look. There, she discovers a strange creature chained to the hunter's truck. She is terrified at first, but when she realizes it is injured, she decides to set it free and then runs back home. The next morning, several helicopters are flying over the desert, and Renee suspects they are searching for that creature. So she decides to return to the site, this time prepared. She makes a list of everything she will need: binoculars, pliers, water, and a camera to record. Since she doesn't have a phone, she asks Gil, the only classmate she talks to lend her a camera. At first he refuses because it belongs to his grandfather, but he agrees when Renee promises to help him with his English homework. Back at home, Renee runs into Linda and Chase. He says he wants to change, that he promised to quit drinking, and that he has been sober for 24 hours. He even shows her a coin as proof, but Renee doesn't believe him, especially because he didn't even apologize for what he did the night before. In her room, she checks her list and realizes she is missing something important: Chase's gun, which is kept in the glove compartment of his truck. Without anyone noticing, she takes the keys, opens the compartment, and finds the pistol, along with several bottles of alcohol, confirming that everything Chase said was a lie. Without wasting any more time, she takes the gun and heads out to the desert on her ATV. When she reaches the crater, the creature is gone. All that remains is the chain, stained with a green liquid that looks like blood, and the remains of deer around the area, a sign that the creature is still nearby. She sets up the camera, aims it at the sky, and fires the gun to try to get its attention. When nothing happens, she carefully moves toward the crater, holding the pistol in one hand and the pliers in the other while everything is being recorded. Then she sees the alien lying motionless, with one of its legs caught in a bear trap. Very carefully, she uses the pliers and manages to free it. The creature does not react, and Renee thinks it is dead. When she turns around to turn off the camera, the creature suddenly gets up and jumps at her, knocking her to the ground. Renee freezes, expecting the worst, but the alien stops and backs away, allowing her to stand up. Despite its frightening appearance, Renee senses that it is not aggressive, but rather shy and gentle, like her own animals. She tries to communicate with it and offers it an apple, but the creature does not take it and does not seem to understand her language. When night begins to fall, Renee leaves the alien in the crater and returns home. However, when she gets to her room, she realizes something important. She left Chase's gun in the desert, so she tries to go back out quietly. But outside, she is in for a huge surprise because the alien has followed her all the way, staying hidden so that no one would see it. Renee decides to head back to the desert with him and gestures for the creature to follow her. Suddenly, it disappears into the darkness and she loses all sight of it. Out of nowhere, it reappears behind her and shoots tentacles from its mouth that strike her in the face. But instead of attacking her, it forms a kind of mental connection with her, and Renee faints. At dawn, she wakes up in the middle of the desert. Now she is connected to the alien, and without fear, she hugs it. Determined to protect him, she takes him to her house. Taking advantage of the fact that Linda and Chase are out, She prepares a hiding place in the basement and then shows him her bedroom. There, the creature sees her pets and even tries to attack her snake, but Renee stops him and makes it clear that he cannot eat her friends. When the alien calms down, she decides to give him a name, Croak. Later, the two of them spend the rest of the day watching television in the living room. When Renee hears her mother's car approaching, she panics, turns everything off, and rushes to hide Croak in the basement. Meanwhile, at school, Renee does not show up for class and has not returned Gil's camera. Worried, the boy goes to her house just as Linda has arrived. She allows him to go into her daughter's room to retrieve the camera. At that moment, Renee comes upstairs and finds Gil watching the recording, where the creature can be clearly seen. He asks her what it is, but she tries to say that everything is fake. However, she has no choice but to take him to the basement. When Croak sees Gil, he gets scared and lunges at him. Renee quickly steps in and once again explains that he cannot attack her friend. The creature stops, but the fright is so great that Gil faints. A few minutes later, Renee manages to wake him up. The boy panics, but she calms him down and assures him that Croak will not hurt him. To prove it, she approaches the alien and starts to sing. Croak's body vibrates and reacts to the rhythm of the music, showing that he is not aggressive. Convinced that he is not dangerous, Gil leaves, promises not to tell anyone, and returns the recording to her. What neither of them knows is that, in the distance, two federal agents are investigating the area and manage to overhear part of their conversation. The next day, Renee and Gil meet at school. He asks her how she has been feeding Croak, and she tells him she has tried giving him all kinds of food, but he refuses to eat anything. So Gil suggests going to a part of the desert where there is still no official presence. There, they find a group of wild pigs, and the boy assumes that the alien needs to hunt in order to feed. Renee gives the signal, and within seconds Croak lunges at the animals and begins to devour them. While they wait, Gil asks her more about her life. Renee tells him that after her father's death, her mother decided to move to that town to overcome the loss, and that is why they now live near the desert. Shortly afterward, Croak returns with the remains of one of the pigs and offers them to Renee, as if it were a gift. She thanks him for the gesture, and Gil decides to leave, not before warning her that she will not be able to hide the alien forever, and that sooner or later someone will come looking for him. Even so, Renee is determined to protect him for as long as necessary and returns home, leaving Croak hidden and safe in the basement. Later, Renee finds Chase sitting on the couch, and as expected, he has started drinking again behind Linda's back. She tries to ignore him and go up to her room, but he grabs her by the jacket and forces her to sit down. Then he tells her that he did not find his gun in the truck's glove compartment and demands to know where it is. Renee tries to deny it, but when he realizes she is lying, Chase moves toward her in an intimidating way. Frightened, Renee runs to call her mother, but Chase grabs her and throws her against the wall. She tries to break free, but he pins her to the floor while she screams for help. Linda hears the noise from her bedroom and runs to defend her daughter. At the same time, Croak, who is hidden in the basement, senses that his friend is in danger. Furious, Croak begins smashing his head against the wall with such force that the entire house shakes. After the chaos, Renee realizes that this tremor was caused by her friend, but she decides to keep it a secret. After the confrontation, Chase tries to justify himself, but Linda does not forgive what he did and orders him to leave the house. When he is gone, Linda runs to hug her daughter. But Renee is also angry with her mother for having been with someone like him. So she leaves the house and goes to see Croak, who has nearly knocked down a wall with his blow. Renee manages to calm him down and tells him he must control himself, because if he keeps making noise, sooner or later someone will come looking for him, and her fears come true very soon. The next morning, as she is heading to school, Renee sees a vehicle parked in front of her house. Federal Agent Jonathan Key steps out and tells her that he is investigating something and believes she might know more than she seems. Renee tries to brush him off by saying she is late, but the agent will not let her go and offers to give her a ride. On the way, he reveals that he found a gun in the desert with Chase's fingerprints on it, and hers as well. With few options left, Renee gets into the car. Jonathan makes it clear that he needs her cooperation and that if she tries to hide anything or interfere, he will come back with a warrant and even with handcuffs if necessary. Meanwhile, Linda gets ready to go to work, but notices that the kitchen sink is clogged. She calls a plumber and mentions that the problem might be related to the shaking from the night before. The man says he did not feel any earthquake in the city and goes down to the basement to check the pipes, just as Linda leaves. There, among the boxes, the plumber discovers Croak hiding. Frightened, he tries to attack him with a wrench, but the alien defends himself and injures the man on one arm. The plumber runs to his truck and speeds off without looking, causing a crash on the road. Hours later, after leaving school, Renee pauses near the accident site and sees the plumber's truck stopped there, although she does not know what happened. Shortly afterward, Linda arrives to pick her up, and on the way back home they argue about what happened with Chase. Renee lets out all her anger and blames her mother for bringing that man into their lives. She even tells her that she never got over her father's death, and that is why she avoids talking about him. Even though the words hurt her, Linda does not respond by yelling. Instead, she hands Renee some bottles of water she bought because of the plumbing problem, trying to stay calm as they return home. When Renee hears what her mother says, she immediately suspects that something bad may have happened to Croak. She runs to the basement and finds bloodstains on the floor. Then she sees the alien with a head wound and helps clean it. At that moment, she understands that someone discovered him and that it is no longer safe to keep hiding him there. Determined to protect him, Renee takes Croak back to the desert and calls Gil to meet her. He agrees, but shortly afterward, Agent Brown appears at his house and tells him that he needs to speak with him. Even so, Gil does not mention anything about Croak. Back in the desert, Renee decides to test how fast the alien can run. She speeds up her ATV and tells him to follow her. At first, Croak struggles, but soon he adapts and ends up running even faster than she does. When Gil arrives, Renee explains her plan. She wants to take Croak in Chase's truck, which is still parked in front of her house, and drive to a reserve in another desert to hide there for a few days, until she is sure that no one will find them. Gil is not convinced and tells her that a federal agent went to see him, although he did not say anything about the alien. Even so, he advises her to think carefully about what she is about to do. Renee, firm in her decision, asks him to build her a tent so she can stay in the desert. Seeing that he will not change her mind, Gil agrees to help her. Back at home, Renee writes a farewell note for her mother, packs a backpack with supplies, and releases her pets into the desert, knowing there will be no one left to take care of them. Everything is ready to escape with Croak, but just as she is about to get into the truck, Chase appears with a gun and forces her to get out. He then drags her inside the house and, completely out of control from the alcohol, confronts both Linda and Renee. Meanwhile, a group of soldiers is heading into the desert to search for the alien, unaware that Croak is already on his way back to the house after sensing that his friend is in danger. Linda tries to protect her daughter and yells at her to run. Renee manages to get away for a moment, but Chase catches up to her and threatens her. At that instant, Croak arrives at full speed and steps in between them. Overcome with rage at seeing Renee in danger, he attacks Chase and leaves him lifeless. Although Renee begs him to stop, the creature, completely shaken, flees the place. Shortly afterward, Gil arrives and sees what has happened. Renee tries to explain that Croak only wanted to save her, but Gil tells her that things have gone too far and that the federal agents are already on their way. He then confesses that he was forced to tell what he knew because they were threatening to deport his grandfather. Renee feels betrayed. At that moment, Agent Jonathan Keyes arrives and confirms that everything Gil said is true. Renee tries to escape on her ATV, but the agent stops her and leaves her no choice but to surrender. The federal team sets up a base in the house and connects Renee to equipment to analyze the mental bond she has with Croak. The results show that their connection is extraordinarily strong. Jonathan orders everyone to get ready and coldly causes Renee to cry out in pain in order to use that bond as bait. Her screams reach Croak, who runs desperately to rescue her. When he arrives, he falls into a trap and is caught inside a force field. Renee begs them to release him, but the agent makes her lose consciousness with gas, and the alien is finally captured. Minutes later, Renee, Croak, and Linda are taken to a secret facility where the alien is held. When Renee wakes up, Jonathan interrogates her, and she demands to know where her friend is. She tries to convince him that Croak is not dangerous, that he's just scared. But the agent thinks otherwise. He believes the creature was sent by beings more advanced than humans to explore Earth, and that this could be the beginning of an invasion. Renee refuses to accept that idea. To her, Croak is not an enemy, but a friend with whom she has formed a very strong bond. However, Jonathan wants to use that very connection to find a way to destroy his species. Renee refuses to cooperate, but the agent threatens to keep her mother detained and under constant interrogation if she does not help. Later, Jonathan meets with Agent Brown, who disagrees with his methods and wants to end the interrogation and let Renee go. But Jonathan is determined to continue, no matter the cost. Alone in the room, Renee desperately thinks about how to save Croak. Then she makes an extreme decision. She lets out a cry of pain so that, through their mental link, the alien can hear her. The sound reaches Croak, who begins to struggle inside the force field holding him captive. With a tremendous effort, he manages to break free and starts moving through the base as the alarms go off. Jonathan runs to stop Renee, but it is already too late. Croak reaches the interrogation area, where Jonathan and Brown are waiting with stun weapons. The creature bursts in, the agents are knocked down and left unable to continue. Enraged, Croak seems ready to keep attacking, but Renee steps in front of him and begs him to stop, reminding him that he cannot become the monster everyone believes he is. Taking advantage of the moment, Renee grabs Jonathan's car keys and tries to escape with Croak, but the agent regains consciousness, grabs his weapon, and this time loads it with real ammunition. In the parking lot, just as Renee is about to flee, Jonathan opens fire. Renee tells Croak to take cover behind the vehicle, but the bullets tear through the metal. Seeing that his friend is in danger, Croak decides to face the agent. Even though he is wounded, he keeps moving forward and manages to stop Jonathan, saving Renee. She runs to him, but the alien has lost too much strength and collapses to the ground, seemingly lifeless. Days later, Renee and Linda return home and try to get back to their normal lives. Even so, Croak's absence hurts Renee deeply. One night, she sits on the swing in the backyard and plays a song on her banjo in his honor. Meanwhile, in a secret government laboratory, the alien's body is brought in to be studied. The scientists prepare their equipment, when suddenly, the creature moves on the table and lets out a powerful roar, leaving it unclear whether Croak truly died or somehow he managed to survive. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.